Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1, Joanne Davey. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, all beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Please sit if you can do so. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Frederick Norman Craig. Fred Craig was born on the 6th of June 1893 to John and Mary Craig of Tasmania. He grew up in Adventure Bay, where his father had settled after leaving Scotland and travelling around the world. Fred was the fourth of four boys and had 6 sisters. He was educated at the Adventure Bay State School and went on to work as a sawmiller like his father. He was described as a fine young citizen who commanded the respect and esteem of all whose privilege it was to have known his sterling qualities. Fred Craig was one of 3 Craig brothers to enlist in the Australian Imperial Force, doing so in January 1915. He underwent a period of training in Australia before leaving for active service overseas with reinforcements to the 12th Battalion. He was first sent to Egypt, writing to his family that we had a good trip across and it was a bit rough for the first week, but all the rest of the time it was calm. In reply to a letter suggesting he had been feeding the fishes on the way over, he proudly wrote, "I was not sick once and I never missed a meal, so I think that I can call myself as good a sailor as any of them." Arriving in Cairo just weeks after landing at Anzac Cove, Private Craig was quickly aware that the hospitals were full of wounded Australians. He wrote home, "I suppose when you get this letter, I will be at the Dardanelles, for we are ready to go at any time now. I will be able to give more news next time." He could be in no doubt as to what he was headed for. In June, Private Craig wrote, "I have been in the trenches 3 weeks now, and I think we'll be in the trenches a long time yet. It is not too pleasant, with bullets flying all around us all day and night, and at times shell bursting over us, but I'm quite used to it now." Like many men in Gallipoli, Private Craig fell sick with dysentery and had to be evacuated to hospital. After the first occasion, he wrote, "I received splendid treatment in hospital. They looked after me tip-top. I could get almost anything I asked for, and in one way I was sorry to leave, but I was anxious to get back to pop some more Turks over." The second time Craig contracted dysentery, he was so sick he had to be evacuated to hospital in Woolwich in England. He wrote to his sister from hospital to say, "I hope I will be home for next Christmas. I think the war will be over in about 6 months' time if we are lucky." Private Craig was still in hospital when the Australians started to arrive in France, and it was only receiving intermittent news from the front and letters from home. He wrote to his sister, "I do not know where any of my friends are. They might be killed for all I know." He would rejoin his mates on the battlefields on the Western Front in August 1916. Shortly after his arrival, the 12th Battalion took part in an attack on Mouquet Farm, capturing its objectives before being forced to withdraw. Private Fred Craig was proving to be an able soldier. A member of a Lewis gun crew, in early 1917 he was awarded the Military Medal for his devotion to duty under heavy rifle fire and machine gun fire during an enemy attack on the French village of Lagnicourt. When the German force broke through on the left flank, Craig and his number 1, Private Cyril Allen, carried their gun forward under heavy fire. It was reported that they then kept up a steady but deadly fire and repelled a heavy frontal attack, catching the enemy in a massed formation. By their soldierly qualities, these 2 men materially assisted in holding an important position. Early in 1918, the German army broke through the trench lines of the Western Front in a series of sudden and vicious attacks that saw the Allied defences stretched to breaking point. By April, the German supply and communication lines were stretched to breaking point, and their advances slowed in the face of staunch opposition. A few weeks afterwards, reports were received in Tasmania that Private Craig was missing in action. Investigations took some time. It was later discovered that on the 23rd of April, the 12th Battalion was in a position near the village of Metteron in France. As the battalion was As the battalion was being forced back by an enemy attack, Craig was badly wounded and had to be left behind. While reports differ on whether he was still alive as the Australians were forced back, it was clear that he had not returned with his mates. Once it was established that he had not been taken prisoner by the Germans and could not be found anywhere else, Craig was determined to have been killed in action on the 24th of April 1918. His body was never recovered, and today he is commemorated on the Australian National Memorial at Villers-Bretonneux. He was 24 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Frederick Norman Craig, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We'll remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, we will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening.